in the story of Tamar, the daughter of David, the story where she was abused by her own half-brother, not protected by the men in the family. Today, in this story, we want to look at the role that David played in this abuse of his daughter Tamar. Now, David was a king. David was a poet. David was a soldier. David, the giant slayer. David, by the word they spoke, had a man killed so he could take his wife. This powerful man did nothing to protect his own daughter. The Tamars in our society today, they go to our police force, they deal with our legal system, they go to the people who are supposed to protect them, those who can even set right that what has been done to them, and yet we fail them. So how does David fail the modern day Tamar? Well, let me tell you of a few instances where our Tamars had to deal with our police force. The strong David, was powerful enough to protect us, but refused to do so. The first story I want to share with you today is of a woman who's got a court protection order against her husband, her ex. And when he, not once, but 7 times, broke this court order, did exactly what he wasn't supposed to be doing, intimidating her and trying to prolong her anguish as he was just carrying forward his abuse. When she went to have this order enforced, the detective who received this case went to court without even interviewing this woman. And it was thrown out. The protection order already in place, signed for with a judge with a warrant of arrest, was thrown out of court because this David did nothing. He did not do what he was supposed to be doing. We took this woman back to this detective. He took her statements and then he just did nothing. He never went back to the prosecutor with this case. And this Tamar remains desolate. She remains a victim and she remains an abused person because our David failed her. The second David was here in our local police station. This huge big cop with his firearm and his warrant officer rank, when she walked in there with a complaint, first said to her, to this woman whose husband, her ex, had took her vehicle, refused to give it back after 2 years, refused to even give back her property, and this cop said to her, we can't open a case. If we open a case of vehicle theft and they find him, they will shoot him. Another one told her a few weeks before, because this was already the 5th time she went to the police, he told her, but he will have a criminal record. Well, he should have a criminal record, shouldn't he? He took a vehicle. He is a criminal. And they refused to open a case. I went with her and we insisted that they do so because he took this vehicle without, he borrowed it and took it without her authority and kept it. Yet the cop said she had no case. I then spoke to a state prosecutor from my hometown and she said, it's not for a uniform cop to decide. He has to open a case. And then he goes to the detectives and they'll take it to the prosecutor and the prosecutor will decide if there's a case or not. But these things don't get that far because the Davids in blue think they're the law and they can decide and they will protect who they want to protect. So I was advised to go to the station commander, which I did with this lady. And the station commander wasn't in her office. But I was promised that this station commander, who happens to be a woman in our local police station, will come back to me. She will phone me. Well, guess what? It's not happened. And the Tamar remains desolate because David refused to protect her. Last year, with the same station commander, some pastors in this town had a service during the 16 days of activism against abuse, against gender-based violence. We lit candles, we prayed, we sing songs. Well, guess what, Brigadier? That won't work. Because God wants for us to be the salt and bring about the change. This lady still has no joy after numerous attempts trying to get her property back from someone she divorced many years ago, who took it without her permission. Bronkhorstspruit, our neighbouring town, they don't fare any better. There's a mother there who's got a son who's 38 years old, and because of his previous drug habits, he's now been diagnosed as schizophrenic. He was dancing naked on the roof and singing and shouting, and she went to our boys in blue, those who are supposed to protect her, our Davids out there, and they said they can't do anything unless he does something first. Well, we understand that. That's the law, isn't it? And then a couple of weeks later, he beat her up, this 38-year-old man, and she went to the police station pleading this man for help. And they stood there in the uniforms and they laughed at her. This is a real, true story. This is not made up. They laughed at her. And they refused to go and protect her. And then while she was there, the two of her sons, the other one brought his brother to this police station to try and prevent the mother from opening a case. And they were shouting and screaming at her from across the street and from the police station. She went in and said, "Look at this, I need help." They refused. They said, "You know what? We've only got one vehicle. There's been an accident. We're on our way out to an accident scene right now. We cannot help you. You don't need a vehicle to just cross the road, Mr. Policeman." She remained at Tamar, desolate and abused by the very David that was supposed to protect her. These are but a few stories of a few women that I had to deal with in a short space of time. But this sadly happens every day of our lives, where Davids don't do what they're supposed to be doing. Where fathers turn a blind eye when a daughter-in-law, or a sister or a mother even, is abused by somebody in their household. I sit with another case of a lady where the parents of her Amnon, behind the scenes, are pushing for her children to be removed from her. They're doing everything in their power to get their grandchildren for themselves. They're hiding the fact that their Amnon has got so many problems that he needs to deal with. They refuse to acknowledge his problems. They refuse to get him help. They support him in what he's doing. They're the Davids. They can change this by speaking to their son, by supporting their daughter-in-law, by looking after their grandchildren through their daughter-in-laws the proper way in a family setup. It's in our households. How do we turn a blind eye when we see our daughter-in-law being abused by our son? David, we're all Davids. We all know of abuse around us. I don't think there's any person who does not know of somebody they know who is an abuser or been abused. Davids who have the ability and the power. Davids, the soldiers, the policemen. Davids, the people in courts, the magistrates, those who can make a change. Maybe they're angry at the situation, but they don't do anything. Look out for the Tamars in your life. See where you can step in. See what difference you can make. This will not change. It's been like with us for at least 3,000 years, this David story. It will only change if each one of us starts to bring that change about. In our last clip, we will look at Absalom, the brother of Tamar, who seems to be there, but really is not doing anything to change the situation. Until then, God bless.